Good morning, everyone. It's Louisa Munson from the Barefoot Broadcast. Welcome back to another week. It's the 20th of November, 2023, and I'm going to be joined by two amazing guests today. The first being Vinnie Grant, who you might know as Vincent Grant or Vinnie M. Grant. I'm going to get a bit of clarity on that later as to what he prefers. I always know him as Vinnie. But anyway, we're talking about that the idea that we're already whole and complete. And I can see we've got people watching us already. So please do join us in the chat room and let us know your thoughts. Like, do you feel whole and complete? Have there been times when you felt whole and complete, or do you think it's all just a load of rubbish? You know, like, do you think that we're actually born in need of healing? You know, it's a funny one because, like, when I was growing up, I was always raised to, know that I was worthy and I was lovable and this, that, and the other. And yet there was also this like counter idea that humans were born in sin, or born weakened, or born with a lack. And so that's really the thing that I'm really wanting to explore today. I've got a message here from it looks like it's a message from me, but I'm not doing it. My hands are here, not there. But Carla's it must be Carl, because it's not my children. But he's saying, looking good, lady. Did you have a big hitting YouTube video lately? I sure did. Thanks for the mention of that. I actually posted a video. In fact, it's going to fit into the theme of this as well. But I posted a video on Thursday, and I normally get around between 100 to 1,000 people checking out my videos on my Feel Good Astrology channel. And to my utter surprise and amazement, it went up like 100 views an hour, and it just continued like raising. And this morning when I got up, it had been watched by 7,400 people, and it's given me quite a few extra subscribers, about 250 extra ones. So, something has just loosened in my experience. Something has just, like, it's almost like a switch has been turned on. And that's one of the things we're going to be talking with Vinnie about today. So let's bring Vinnie on now. I'm going to give him a round of applause just because he's looking hot. So let's bring him on now. How you doing, Vinnie? Sorry,
I just wanted to make you
laugh.
And it's great to be back.
You are looking good. So how are you? How you say you're feeling fine?
Yeah.
This is a subject that we've been talking around for years, actually, between us, isn't it? What I want to know, if that's okay, because obviously people that are watching maybe know that you work as a high level coach and a transformation expert, but they might not understand your route in there and how that fits in with the whole idea of being whole and complete. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself, Vinnie, and what kind of got you on the road to wanting to transform?
Well, I would say, like a lot of people who get involved in this, they've been through a lot themselves. And as a child, I had a lot of trauma experiences as a child within the family home, but also school as well.
Yeah.
So I was very different. And those effects stayed with me over the years. And at the age of 18, I took my life in a completely different direction. And I left the north of England to come down to the south on my own. And I moved into a bed and breakfast. The landlady and landlord became friends of mine. I had very little money with me, and they let me stay until I sorted myself out. They were happy for me to be there until I sorted myself out. And he was a psychic and a medium.
Oh, wow.
This was my introduction to a level of spirituality, a level of that. And one evening, he used to have a weekly meditation group when there would be mediums there, clairvoyants and healers and channelers as well. And I was upstairs in my room, and everybody had gathered there for the evening. And about an hour later, there was a knock on my door from John, who ran the group. He was a landlord, inviting me down to join the group. And I did. And I walked in, and there was this woman to the left that was separate to everybody else. And she was, what I didn't realize, was in a trance state.
Oh,
And he invited me to sit in the chair near her. And then we had this conversation. So she's telling me about my childhood and my life. And it was absolutely incredible. And that was a big awakening, but also how my life was going to be so much better moving forwards.
wow.
And this was a big wake-up call for me. This led to me beginning meditation and then reading personal development books. And this was another big awakening, because what I realized very quickly is that I wasn't who I thought I was. I was
Right.
partly that, but I was also partly the effect of different experiences that I had in my life. And I was carrying the residue of those experiences in the form of beliefs and emotional baggage,
Mhm.
memories, and all of the internal thoughts and internal dialogue that go with those experiences when they are triggered.
Yeah.
And it was then at the age of 18 that I started to work on myself, because in this particular book, and I can't even remember the name, he talked about maturing yourself emotionally, developing yourself physically, and also mentally in terms of what you put in your mind, quality information, and also spiritually as well. So this deepened my understanding further of those 4 key areas. And I realized instantly how important it was. So I was coming from a damaged place looking for a solution.
Mm.
And then I began working on myself in different ways in those key areas. And that's continued all of my life. However, it was coming from a damaged place in attempt to fix myself. Fast forwarding, I realized that we are occupying this virtual reality suit, a full body suit, which has all the programming from our ancestors all the way through, all of our life experiences in this lifetime, all of the lifetimes, but we carry all of that. And we are not that. We are having experiences because of that programming
Mm-hmm.
that give us the opportunity to revisit unresolved emotional stuff, not just our own, but also our ancestors as well.
Yeah.
So we have the opportunity to revisit that, to resolve it, which means transcending above it, or the transmutation of that energy to a higher frequency, like a
Mm-hmm.
transformer, transforming low frequency energy to a high frequency energy on
Mm.
an energetic level. On a more emotional level, it could be letting go, arriving at a place of forgiveness, going beyond that, as I did, as have experienced, going beyond that, where it's not even important to forgive, to go beyond it. So on
Yeah.
that emotional level. And then there's a physical level that all of that stuff shows up in, creating disharmony within the body. Um, and and becoming healthier and a greater sense of well-being by letting that stuff go.
Mm.
So there was that stage of understanding. And then the next stage was that through personal experiences of being separate from the virtual reality suit, so none of that was being triggered. So there were no thoughts, there were no stories, there were no emotions at all. There was an alignment to this, the source self, if you will, the aspect of source that's presenting through into this world.
Yeah.
But in alignment with that, where all of that stuff is irrelevant. It's an experience we're having in this suit, this virtual reality suit, so we can interact with certain frequencies that our brain translates into experiences. So we're getting what we need,
Okay.
interacting that, so we can go beyond that.
Vin, can you've given us so much detail so far. I want to just not paraphrase it, but just check my understanding of what you're saying. Because I know that some of the people watching today are going to be like right on with you. They're going to be like, yep, I know exactly what you mean. Because what I'm hearing is, well, quite a few things. First of all, and I really love this, I'm hearing that at some point when you were courageous enough to find your own way in life, life met you. You know, like in all the great heroes' journeys, there is a point, isn't there, where you meet some kind of cooperative component. And so it's lovely to hear that, you know, early in your journey, when you were courageous enough to leave behind everything that you knew and you were ready to like set out on your own, there were people ready to help you and be part of your journey and to open it and expand it. So, you know, you were really in the right state to like have some kind of like great intervention occur, you know, or some great influences to happen. I'm sure most people listening today will have experienced that. And I don't think enough people put themselves in a situation whereby they get to realize that they can trust other people like that. It's a really special experience, isn't it? But the next thing that really occurs to me is, you know, in realizing that there was another aspect to life, you then had the realization that there is the experiences that we're getting through the meat suit, i.e. the body. That's what you're referring to, isn't it? You know, these real life experiences, and that there's another perspective that's available to us that is kind of outside of the body, or almost like an observer. And that you can use both perceptions or both positions to be able to create something new.
Yes.
Was that a good?
It's really good. Yes, it illustrates really well. From my experience, it's bringing through what is on the inside, which is so vast. If you imagine a funnel that is so big, you can only see part of it. It is so huge, right up to the stratosphere. And that funnel comes down to a narrow point at the end. That's what we're experiencing.
What, we're at the narrow point at the end?
Yeah.
And we don't realize that we're in this huge funnel.
When I say funnel, using that as a way to capture what I'm trying to communicate, is there is such a vastness of who we are, and we're experiencing a minute part of it.
Okay.
And that's there to be explored. And why shouldn't we? Because it's who we are. It's more of who we are than this personality construct that we identify with to some degree.
Well, a lot of people don't even realize that, you know, this meat construct, like this body, is not real. Like, it's very, very real to a lot of us, and we are like sat in you know, my understanding is we're sat in a dimension of polarity, you know, where we are experiencing things physically and also spiritually as well. But we can't experience physicality without having a body.
No, we can't. Well, the biological computer translates energy into form and shape.
Yeah.
So when I work with somebody and the unconscious shows them a symbolic representation of a dominant emotion connected to trauma, for example, it is literally transforming energy into an internal experience for that person to see. Now, when they see that symbolic representation, it might be like a prison cell. And that is a reflection, and that is a direct representation of the emotion that they've been carrying around an event that has long gone and over with and finished. It's showing them a symbolic representation. So, and this is how it's working with everything. As I'm looking at you now, really, on a quantum level, it's all energy at different frequencies. This biological computer and my nervous system is translating that energy into form and shape.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all the five sensory information. So that would be auditory with you and visual.
Mm-hmm.
In my home, it's smell, taste, touch, sound, and feeling
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
All of that is energy that has been translated, and I'm having this human experience, and I'm able to interact with that which I am creating.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason for it. It's not coincidental. We're here to interact with projections of our own making
Mm-hmm.
for a reason.
Yeah.
I believe I know what that reason is, but it is for a reason.
Well, do
And
you want to tell us?
we're all doing it.
We're all doing it.
We're
So this
all
might be
doing
news for people who've just stumbled across this video, that, you know, this is all an illusion.
it. In this in this meat suit, as you put it, it certainly isn't within that. When we're being swept, we're moving in and out of emotional states, different chemical states in the body constantly.
Yeah.
You know, just during a conversation, we're moving in and out of different chemical states that we're experiencing as different emotions and feelings.
Yeah.
And so much happening internally, projections of the mind, memories, pictures, internal dialogue. There's limited amount of information on the outside. I sit here now, it's very limited compared to internally. You can ask me a question and suddenly I'm 3 years of age, I'm 7 years of age, I'm on holiday. You know, you can ask me about an experience I've never had, like skiing down a mountain, and
And
I
you
can
can
have that
experience it.
experience because I've observed it.
Yeah.
And when I observed it, I felt it. So that's encoded as an experience within me. So I can even access that. I can be outside of this dimension. I can, well, because I've experienced it, I can be in other planes of existence and traveling through other dimensions and meeting other beings. You know, it's incredible that we're actually creating it, whether it's here or in another dimension.
Mm.
It's us that are creating the experience for us to interact with.
And we're doing that with our biological brain.
Biological computer, yes.
And is our biological computer here, or is it in our heart or our stomach, or all of it? Is it?
Well,
Where do you,
apparently we have three brains, and it's something I wanted to look into more. Here, the stomach, the heart, and the stomach.
yeah.
But for ease and simplicity, because I don't have enough information about that, what I do know is that the brain converts electrical impulses into experiences
Yeah. So
that
it's
I am
interesting that
interacting with.
it's interesting what you're saying. And I just want to quickly welcome Sarah,
Mhm.
because Sarah's here. We've also got Jay watching, and she's going to be joining us very soon. Ow, I just banged my finger. But hey, Jay, we'll bring you on soon. We've got Sarah, who is saying, oh, 250 new subscribers. And she's saying, oh, Vinnie, and sending you like lots of love by the looks of it. It's interesting that you were talking about how I just need to name an experience and you can go there because you have this brain and you can you've seen it, so you know how to translate it. You've had serious like maybe similar experiences, like you might have experienced snow, what it's like to feel like the cold on your skin, so you could really imagine what it would like, especially if you tobogganed or something. You could probably imagine what it is like to ski, or you might have skied. But that's a little bit like how, I mean, our kids quite like gaming, and they like creating realities that they're experiencing. So we've got like this biological brain, and then there's lots of people now using a technological brain, which appears to be mirroring it in many respects. Fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and part of the significance for me with this as well, I believe the information, experiences we have internally is far richer than externally. So when a client comes to me and they're communicating with me, they're moving through different states. The room's remaining the same, but they're experiencing so much internally, and that's my point really. What we experience internally, and this leads on to that we're whole. So I'm getting there. There's so much that happens internally on a moment by moment basis when we're not even triggered, when our stuff's not even triggered.
Yeah.
When it is triggered, old beliefs come online that may not have been there before the person was triggered.
Yeah.
You'll see the behavior change. You'll see the confidence drop. The language will change. So many things will happen, yet externally in that room, nothing's changed.
Yeah. That's a good point.
You know, we're quick to blame externally for our life, for example, or for experiences or how we feel. It is all internal. Our response, our pre-programmed response, we're already wired to respond to given situations, and how we respond defines our perception. Our experience is defined by that.
Wow.
Somebody's unconscious mind, if there's blocks there where on an unconscious level they want to achieve something, their unconscious mind believes if they do, they will then make themselves vulnerable. So for example, they'll need to do presentations or do a public speaking event. If the unconscious mind has had experienced in the past emotional disturbance because of that activity, and it might have been something at school, very, very innocent at school, it put a block on that. So the person wants to move towards it, and there's a part of them that's moving them back. I want to achieve that, or I want to achieve that, and then suddenly feel really, really uncomfortable. So our work, it has been about aligning your unconscious with your conscious mind. So you can move forwards with ease towards achieving what you want to achieve. And again, that which is getting in the way is a program. It's not who we truly are. It's a program. It's the residue of a past event. So it's not us, it's a program in the meat suit.
Yeah. So my understanding then from what you're sharing is that we have this very sophisticated biological computer, or several running, almost like a neural network, in fact. And we may even be born with particular programs.
Oh, yes, definitely.
So we're born with particular programs, but we have the capability to rewrite those programs. We might need help doing it, and we might learn the skills to be able to do it ourselves. But that when we change our programs, the outer experience of our life changes. A bit like if you change a code in a program.
Exactly.
It will, and you hit that enter key or whatever it is that you hit to update that new program, all of a sudden what you see in front of you is operating differently. And which makes me now wonder, having seen The Matrix, if we've got these computer programs going on, but we are each characters within a larger computer program that has set the reality for us. You know, like, you know, back in the 80s when we used to play computer games, I'm guessing you did as well, like the platform games, and some computer programmer had like laid it out and you had to go to the end of this page and then to that page. They'd set the environment, but you could have different characters. Yeah. That's a bit sinister to think, though, and consider. But I guess if we are our own characters or our own avatars, we can create our own reality within the world that we see right now.
Yes, we can. And that gets closer to the fact that we are whole. So we move closer now. Because when we start letting go of the programming, the opposite happens. So if I'm working with somebody who's, say, public speaking, and they have a fear of it, that fear is not who they truly are. Again, it's a residue of the past. Now, when we get that fear out of the way by removing it from the unconscious, suddenly the unconscious supports them to go on stage to talk. And then if they feel that they really have something important to say, then we look at how in harmony are they with that? How connected are they with that? Is there something in the way? And so I'm working with this, been working with a singer who has got a real gift to bring through a vibration into this dimension. And we've explored this in higher dimensions. And she's very clear on that. However, there was some stuff in the way, some limiting beliefs in the way. And by removing those beliefs, she was able to harmonize more with her gift.
Wow.
Now, so one of the beliefs, for example, a belief could be, for example, I'm not good enough, or I'll fall at the last post, or people won't really hear me. This is all childhood stuff.
Yeah.
And by clearing her particular blocks, she was able to sing from her gift without interference.
Yeah.
So she was singing from her wholeness.
I love that. She was singing from
her wholeness. And we have that wholeness in every moment. It's there. If it's not showing up, it's because something's in the way, obscuring it. So nobody's broken. There's something obscuring it. And it's like a cloudy day. It looks really cloudy. However, behind it, there's a blue sky and the sunshine. And as you clear the stuff, the sun starts to shine through. And the idea is to clear all of the dark clouds so the sun is blazing through. There's so much light coming through. Now, that's a great metaphor, because as we do clean up the unconscious and it starts working with us, the sun starts to shine through. And it is like the sun shining through. It's a high frequency energy.
Yeah. And we'll bring Jay on in a second. She's waiting very patiently. I know you've been working quite closely with Jay, and so I think she wants to share some of, a little bit of information about her experience of, working with you and having some of her frequencies cleared. For transparency, you and I have worked together for years on and off. And, going back to the start where Carl said, yeah, you've just had a high hitting YouTube video recently. There is a change in my belief systems. You've been working with my internal switches. So, once you lose the thing that's holding you back, everything else just seems to work and help you thrive. We've just got, before I bring Jay on, I just want to share, we've got Carl watching saying, hey, Vin. And, Sarah saying, our point of view creates our reality. And she's saying, frag the hard drive. I love that. So let's bring Jay on. I'm going to give her a round of applause as well. And isn't it, Jay?
Hello.
Are you, Jay?
You're lovely.
You're turning up like beautiful sunshine that Vinnie was talking about.
Well, it's all his fault.
Is that a blue dress with white clouds on? Or
is it a what? Yes, it's a blue dress with something on.
Like clouds. They look like little clouds. It's so funny that we were talking about.
Let's not go like that, had I? Knock somebody's eye out.
Yeah, I won't do that.
Well, I
just what do you have to add? Because you've been listening in to what Vinnie's been saying about the possibilities for changing and rewiring the way you think.
I've got a lot to say on this.
How do you want to start?
I've been busting to say, because obviously I worked with Vinnie. It feels like
no volume.
What?
I can hear Jay.
Can you?
I can't.
You can't?
Can you not?
No.
Well, that's weird.
I don't know.
You're working perfectly, Jay.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, Vinnie, you can't hear Jay at all.
No.
You know why, don't you? Because I'm so high frequency now. I've gone out of range.
she's saying you can't hear her because she's gone out of range. She's so high vibe.
Oh, bless him.
Yeah.
Hang on, Carl, if you're listening, like the God in the sky, Carl might.
Carl, where are you?
Carl, what might be causing that? What's going on that Vinnie can't hear? Isn't it weird that I'm talking to Carl here and he's not here at all? I'm imagining him like that's obviously where I've got
your guide.
Yeah. Carl, if you're listening, what's going on with the settings that Vinnie can't hear Jay? Jay, you can hear Vinnie, can't you?
I can hear all of it perfectly. Yeah,
Okay.
I can.
There's something not quite right. But Vinnie, I will get to the bottom of this. And I will repeat the things that Jay's saying.
Yeah,
Okay.
please do.
And
Please
I
do.
mean, I need him to hear. Well, he knows this because we've discussed this
Okay.
anyway. But obviously, for my purpose, this I would like, you can use this as a testimonial for the work because I need to do that. But it's like I've been trying to give Vinnie a testimonial and not quite sure how to do it. So this is
Well,
kind
this
of
is quite interesting. Let me just
perfect.
stop you there. Vinnie, Jay's been saying she's been trying to get you a testimonial to you. And isn't it funny? As she's about to talk about your testimonial, you can't hear it. So there might be some receivership issues going on.
Absolutely.
Just wanted to acknowledge that. So Jay's going to tell us what she has found really powerful and valuable about the work that you've been doing. So Jay, what's the first thing that you've noticed?
Well, initially, I mean, again, the three sessions I will say were the most powerful. I think we've done 4. I think it's 4, but the first 3 were absolutely incredible. The 4th one was kind of like a feedback session. Other things went on. It's still occurring for me. I am still processing what Vinnie and I went through, because it was really huge. It was massive. It was life-changing, to be honest with you. I mean, what he was saying earlier on about the body translates certain things into emotions, feelings, and subsequently that goes out into the world as your experience of the world. I can vouch for that without a shadow of doubt,
Yeah.
And what happened if I can talk about the sessions first, the first session.
Sure. If you're happy
because
to.
I had absolutely no idea what Vinnie did, in all honesty. I know we know Vin, he's a friend, but I didn't really know what his work was or how it evolved or what it involved, So when he said, can we do some work together? I'm like, yeah, I'm up for that. So I had no idea what to expect. So he was just very reassuring, and we sat down, I plugged in, I put my little eye mask on because it was lovely to be able to do that, because that way I felt as if all eyes weren't on me. I could focus on what was going on inside rather than focusing on what was on the outside.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was the thing. And then he said, just anything at all that comes up, which is kind of validating what he said earlier about I'm trying to think how he worded it. I don't want to put words into his mouth, but what came up wasn't, he said, whatever comes up, let it come out. You can't get it wrong. You can't get it wrong, whatever comes up. So I'm thinking, okay, I can work with that. And the first thing that came up for me, because I explained to him that I had this deep, deep feeling of sadness and grief that didn't matter what I did, how I worked in life, what help I'd had, this grief was still there underlying, like underpinning everything I ever did. And I couldn't shake it. And I had no idea where it came from. And so Vinnie started doing his thing, and we just sat, and he said, well, I can't remember the wording, forgive me. But anyway, the first word that popped up in my mind, it was, yes, trade secret. The first word that popped up for me was separation. And I was shocked. I was like, oh, well, of course, my brain went into all kinds of separation issues that I know I have had in the past with various things. But it turned out to be something completely different. And when we actually went, it was as if sitting here now, because I went to the inner world, like he said quite rightly, everything on the outside was perfect. But my inner world, I was somewhere else. And it was remarkable, because when I actually finally took the mask off and came back into the room, so to speak, I was quite like, oh my God, where have I just been? But I hadn't been anywhere,
Just been inside.
I'd just been on the inner journey, and it was endless and infinite. And those separation things that came up for me, I absolutely, within 2 seconds of talking to Vinnie, and I must just say, he does have an energy and a presence, without maybe even knowing it, that brings this stuff up and facilitates these changes within us. It's we that do the work, but he has a really good energy for doing that. So within seconds, I was sobbing and sobbing from the depths, and I had no idea where all this came from, but I knew what it was. Again, this was about 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks ago. And I said to Vinnie afterwards, this stuff is still going on. I'm still processing a lot of that stuff and seeing it playing out in this world, in the meat suit world, because it's a deep journey and it's not an overnight thing. However, it does fast track you to the point of recognition where you can begin unraveling that ball of wool within you that contains all of that DNA, that information, the programs you wish to defrag, as Sarah quite rightly says. That is absolutely true.
Excellent. Can I just stop you there, because I want to just sort of check in with Vinnie. What Jay's, and let me know if I don't share it very well, Jay. One of the things that Jay's talking about, Vinnie, is from the first session, right from word go, when she was like focusing internally, she had the sensation of really detaching from this world. And when she was in that really internal place, the real deep feelings that she felt on a day-to-day basis, but wasn't really aware that they were running the show. The deep feeling of sadness and grief became really obvious, and she was able to access it in a different way. And the feeling of separation, and that it's started a process of letting it out. It started a process that's ongoing. It's creating something. So, like, when you were saying about the idea that we're in a meat suit, and that's just representing our experiences, but everything is going on internally. That's definitely Jay's experience. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would.
For everybody, well, whether they want to accept that or not, it's how we operate. The external, it is very limited. I mean, if you look to the left, the right, in front of you, again, very little information. It's a lot, but very little information compared to what is happening on the inside, depending on where we focus our attention.
That's so true.
I know with Jay, that is energy within your field. So when I asked you the question, I noticed how far inside does that feeling go?
Yes.
And I think you said all the way to my core.
Yeah, I did. That's right. It did.
And because it's energy and it's a frequency bandwidth.
Yes.
And,
also, what came out of that also, Vin, was that I'd brought some of it in with me when I came into this lifetime. And a lot of it wasn't even my stuff. So I was operating on somebody else's kind of DNA input, if that kind of makes sense. It was as if I'd brought in other stuff as well. And I think this
with extra programs, maybe.
Kind of, because in a way it was as if it sounds mad to say this, but it's actually happened, is the DNA, or that's the only way I know how to describe it, the energy frequency that I came in with was mixed in with other stuff that was also to do with ancestral, generational, inherited memories and things like that, which we do carry in this lifetime, and which a lot of the time we're operating from those vista points, if you like, within that perspective, which is kind of faulty, because what Vinnie does is get you beyond that to where you truly are, your authentic self. And then you can operate from that 0 point, as I put it. This is just my words, by the way.
No, that's fine.
You can operate from that 0 point then with true authenticity, because it gets you to past all that stuff that's not yours, to the original point that you should have maybe come in on. And there are reasons why we didn't, of course. It's a big subject, this. So for me, it just connected me initially with something that was really, really raw and deep and very, very authentic. And it's grounded me more into just being who I am. And that is still unfolding,
That's incredible. Can I just stop you there? Because I want to check. Vin, were you lip reading there? Jay was saying, can you hear it?
I can hear her now. It's come
Okay.
on. I
Oh,
can hear her.
brilliant.
Because
And
we've
there-
Wonderful.
got a whole bunch of people giving us information here, like ask Vinnie to leave and come back, that might fix it.
Aw.
We've got our backstage like IT experts, you know.
Yeah.
Turn it
Yeah,
off.
Wonderful.
now I heard all of that. You know what
And
stands
thank
out
you
from
so
what you
much.
said
Yes,
is the intergenerational patterns. You
Yeah.
see them on a physical level in terms of characteristics and behaviours.
Yes.
Yes.
On a physical level, passing down through the generations, also experiential. So you may find that it's intergenerational around the loss of a child, for example, or intergenerational. I work with one person who, on the female line, the female on the female line, on a mother's line, through the generations, about 6 generations, the females had given up their happiness for their family.
Oh, wow.
That was intergenerational. So when we did the change work and connected her, like you, Jay, connected her to the rawness and the pain that was deep down beneath the surface, that was showing up on different levels, emotionally and physically in their life, in terms of what was her life, what was happening, and spiritually less connected, because it's a block spiritually as well, or obscuring a spirituality or a spiritual connection. We brought in her ancestors as well, and she guided her ancestors through the healing as she was receiving the guidance from her higher self. So we healed it so it was ancestral healing on her mother's side. Now, if she hadn't done that, that pattern would have continued going down through the generations.
Yeah, I agree, because I experienced that too. Yeah.
Can I just stop you both just for a second? Because when I was saying about our computer experts in the background giving us advice, I didn't get to say how much I appreciate the support that we're getting from people, and also the kind of the sort of mirrored conversation with the physicality of what's happening here. So, you know, sometimes we have to stop what we're doing to be able to restart. We need to stop the program. It was interesting, you know, like that Sarah said, and Carl was also making suggestions as well. But what if Vinnie leaves and comes back again? The idea that sometimes we have to step outside of our program, step outside of our problem, to be able then to see a new possibility before stepping back in. I just wanted to say, you know, like our show is actually mirroring the process of what we're doing. Sorry.
As above, so below.
I agree.
Yeah.
And what I hear that is shifting into a different state. Our perception then changes. As far as I understand, the precursor to perception is emotion and feeling. Directs our perception, beliefs as well, because they act as a filter to the world. If I believe people don't like me, no matter how somebody treats me wonderfully, I won't believe that they like me. So those beliefs act as filters. However, even a belief is driven by emotion. That's what strong emotion, strong belief. Weak emotion, weak belief.
Absolutely.
So that's moving. So me going off and coming back on reflects that as well.
Well, it reminds me of a story. Years ago, I was working as a trainer for a really large bank, and I was quite happy training the younger new apprentices. I felt quite comfortable doing that. And then one day I was asked to deliver this presentation to some of the senior managers. I was only in my mid-20s and I was absolutely crapping my pants. And it was the same material that I would have, you know, that I would deliver out to people younger than me or more with less experience. But all of a sudden seeing a bunch of senior people there, you know, was pretty, and it was in the time before everything was wireless and this, that, and the other. So we had cables everywhere. And as I was in the room about to deliver it, I just started to slowly back away from them. So I was walking closer and closer to the back of the room. I was like literally putting distance in between us. While I did that, I also tripped over a wire and completely disconnected the complete presentation. So I couldn't actually do the presentation. And it was like
Oh
one of
dear.
these Freudian slips, but it was like a
Yeah.
physical one. You know, I
Yeah,
literally caused the end of that presentation.
Yeah.
Thankfully, there's a part of me that didn't want it to go wrong. So I had handouts anyway. And that's when everything came back into the room. But it was interesting that as Jay was about to deliver feedback to you, Vinnie, that you
Yeah.
couldn't hear it.
Yeah.
And so I
Well,
sometimes
yes.
think that, you know, oh yeah, and Sarah's saying you're making yourself smaller. I was making myself smaller. So I wonder if there's a fragment of you, Vinnie, that wasn't ready to hear the amazing feedback.
Could have been.
And that when you know, when you like sat for a moment, you were then actually, I'm okay to hear it, because nothing changed, did it? 1 minute her voice wasn't there and then it was.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
yes.
very strange. And again, it demonstrates that whoever we are and whatever we're doing in life, and I've had this myself where I've looked at people and thought, oh my God, they're demigods because they know this thing that I don't know. And we're just all human, and we all have to, it's a two-way road always. I always say when I
we're always
work with people or chat to people or have my tune-in sessions with people, you know, I'm just doing this, you could do it, you know, it's just me doing it. We're all the same. There's no difference. I'm not up there knowing all. I'm not the all knowing, all seeing, you know, omnipresent, whatever. I just operate from a place that I have to access, and you know, we're all doing it. So I think, again, doing these sessions and chatting like this, it brings us all into a place of vulnerability and authenticity, which is really beautiful. It's a lovely place to be.
Also, I think it gives us all the experience of knowing what it's like to somehow, like, all of a sudden miss the message. Because, in fact, years ago, get this, Vinnie, this is kind of funny. Years ago, when I was first listening to the Barefoot Broadcast, when Carl and Jay were doing a show, and Jay was tuning into the energies of Solomon to get messages from people, I called in the show. Because I wanted to know about whether I'd ever become a mum. And Carl got kicked out of the show. So Carl was like, technology had him like removed from the show. He couldn't get back in. But you and I got the message loud and clear, but Carl wasn't meant to hear it. And it turned out the message was about him. You know,
absolutely
so
brilliant.
And, you know, the bigger program like shields us sometimes from receiving a message. And then other times, everything opens up again.
It does. And like Vinnie said to me in the first session, you can't get it wrong. Which was really reassuring, because, again, I didn't know what was going to come up. I was blown away. It was like we were done within about, I think you said 38 minutes, Vin, that we got to the point that we needed to get to. And that was enough for me that day, because I just was all sobbed out. I had to go and lie down and take a powder, you know.
And there's another part of that as well that I want to say, that we did clear the energy as well. You weren't left in an emotional mess.
We
cleared a lot of the energy, which is raising the vibration of the field. The field, that being the trauma, if you will, that low frequency energy, we transmuted it to a higher frequency energy.
Definitely. Oh, absolutely.
That's important.
I was not left in a state of flux, you know, and I must say this, in the way distant past, I've been to people who were less experienced than Vinnie, bless them, part of my journey too. And I've been left hanging and not knowing what the hell to do, and all this stuff. And, you know, it's been quite traumatic, but no, didn't have that experience with Vinnie. It was brilliant. Very professional.
I absolutely concur with that. I mean, bless Vinnie. You're a saint.
Bless you. Bless you, Vin.
Because, like, he has nice short sessions with you, but mine go on and on, don't they, Vin? It's like I've got, like, is it a bit like Indiana Jones? There's all these little traps. I don't let things go.
Wow. Oh my God. Well, if I can I just mention my second session, which was incredibly powerful, because that's when kind of loads of stuff happened for me that, again, I did not see it coming, you know, because we cleared the field, I think, the first time. I was ready to go. You know, I was already flying by the second one, and we just plugged straight in and went. And what occurred for me was, in the journey that I was on, which again was phenomenal, I didn't see this coming, I connected or reconnected with a guide that I had no idea was there. And yet I'd also always wondered, because of the work that I've done and the things that I've done, thinking, well, I haven't got a guide. Everybody else talks about, oh, my guide, Fred or Dick or Harry, you know, I didn't have one of those. And on this particular journey that we went through, which is where it's taking us into the realms of all possibility that you were talking about in the beginning of the show, it was like, as I interpreted it, it was, I suddenly was in that realm, and I was in this space where I was in a void. I was flying. I connected with this energy that I could see in the vast unknown, that was like a golden, like breathing in, breathing out, this pulsing energy that was so beautiful. And I moved towards it in the session, and it was incredibly powerful what I felt. And I asked this consciousness, who are you? And it said, I am the breath of life. I breathe you in, I breathe you out. And then I was shown how, as it breathed me into being, I became like a separate part, but still connected. And then I went on from that. And again, this, I'm giving you it in a very kind of, you know, short form here. It was vast. It seemed to go on forever. And then I went on to the next experience, and then I went and met this amazing person, and I didn't know who she was. She was just so beautiful. And it was only when Vinnie and I were talking afterwards, and I said, oh my God, this woman was just so amazing. And she was in this place, and she said to me, I've been with you since you were created, and I will always be with you. And I was like, oh my God, it felt so loving and so benevolent. And afterwards, when Vinnie and I were doing a rundown of what had happened and going through it all, I heard very clearly, in somewhere in here, you may call me Violet. And I said, oh my God, this woman's got a name. And what came after that was just off the scale. And I've been reconnecting with that guide since then, and still getting to know her. You know, the other thing that came out of it on another session, I think it was probably in the same session, Vinnie, when we did a deep dive, and I found that I was a dolphin.
Oh,
And
yes, that's right.
do you remember?
Yeah.
An aspect, these are all aspects of me. So I felt that I was the dolphin. I dived into this crystal ocean. I was at the bottom of it. What came out of this session was the dolphin aspect of me taught me that I can go anywhere, to any depth or any height, and all points in between, and I'm okay. And also that the dolphin represents joy, which I had lost that connection with my own joy, my inner joy. So
Which
as
is what
we
you were
shift,
talking about, because you felt the
yeah,
feeling
that's right.
of sadness
It
and
was
grief.
like, but the ocean also represented the emotion that I was drowning in. But because I hadn't recognized the dolphin aspect of me, I couldn't, I was like, you know, you can drown in emotion, but when you realize that joy can release you, I suddenly shot up to the top of the ocean and went, just exploded. The next thing, I found myself, Vinnie's going, well, where are you now? And I'm like, leave me here, I love it. But the next thing in this same session was I suddenly saw very clearly an elevator appeared. And I was like, wow, there's an elevator, Vin. What do I do? He said, what do you want to do? I'm going to go in it. So I got into this, what then turned into a cube of light. And I could feel the sensation, as you do when you move into an elevator or a lift, whooshing upwards. And I was like, oh God, this is lovely. And he said, let me know when you stop, or wait, you know, if you stop. Hopefully you'll stop. And then I stopped, and it was the most exquisite experience I've ever had. And it was like, you know, like on Star Trek. And suddenly, without moving out of it, I was out of the elevator, on board this incredible spaceship, like mothership. And I knew it. I knew this ship. I knew the people on board, and they were blue beings. And I can validate what I saw, because in 2011, a dear friend of mine, Roger Hansen, who is a spiritual artist and soul connector,
Yeah,
do you remember Roger?
Yeah, I was in contact with
When
him.
I was doing a Solomon session, I think it was with Roger, I stayed over at his place, and he in the morning he said to me, he said, "I've got a really strong feeling I need to draw you a spirit picture." So I said, "Okay." So anyway, he did, and this is the picture he drew me.
Oh, wow.
See that?
Yeah.
This blue being.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh my God, I've never done anything like this before. I have no idea what it is." That was who I saw on this ship with Vinnie.
Wow.
And I was one of them. And these people were the most amazing, beautiful, loving, absolutely, oh my God, off the scale. I want to be there now. And
wow.
they connected with me. And then I saw that I was one of them in actual fact, and that one of my aspects, my galactic aspects, was one of these beings. And I knew them and they knew me. And they showed me so many things on this ship. And again, I could go on for hours about this session. It was just phenomenal. But each one of these things that I was experiencing were all parts of me that I felt that I had not recognized or had lost touch with,
Yeah.
that I could then bring back ground it into this life, this experience that I'm having as Jay, and I can utilize them. And I since sort of subsequently did a little meditation with a couple of girlfriends who were feeling a bit low that day. And I said, "Come on board my spaceship with me." And I took them onto the elevator and we did a meditation that went onto the ship, and they experienced what I had seen and felt. I also realized that these beings were in these beautiful suits. They were blue skinned, but they were wearing like a suit, but it was like a bodysuit that fitted all over, and there were no lumps and bumps, it was just beautiful. And I touched one of them and it was like dolphin skin.
Oh,
And
wow.
they said, we connect with people on the planet as dolphins sometimes, and they kind of can switch and change. I mean, there was so much to this. It blew me away, honestly. And again, it's like aspects of my mum came in, the child within me on one of the journeys that we did in just 2-3 sessions took me to a place where I saw lots of children in a playground, but there were no adults there. And Vinnie said, "What do you think they are?" And it came through from that session that these little children were all bits of me. And they came back into me, into my heart. And I did a lot of crying, which was very healing, very healing. And it's been, I don't know, Vinnie, has it been a couple of weeks or so since we kind of did a session? Yeah. And in that time, I must admit, I have still been processing all this stuff because it was huge. It was huge for me. It's life-changing stuff.
I can really hear that. I'd love to just reflect on some of the things that you've shared, because what occurs to me, having had my own experiences of Vinnie's techniques and really generous sessions, is that Vinnie is like a natural ayahuasca or mushroom experience. So
definitely.
You're like our tour guide, helping us tune into all the different possibilities and experiences that our brain, our biological computer, can hold or connect to. Because here's the thing, like the experiences that I've had with the sessions with Vinnie, I can't know for sure that the things that present themselves as my past really, really did happen in the way that my body has felt them or remembered them. I can't guarantee that they're true. And I sometimes wonder if actually all of our computers are synchronized and connected. And so we might be picking up memories from other beings that have a resonance with us, or have a message for us, or not people from the past, but from the future. Or maybe, his radical idea, maybe time doesn't exist, and maybe none of us exist and all of us exist. Actually, we're part of one computer or energy that is experiencing itself multiple ways that millions of times per second, although
Yeah.
time maybe doesn't exist. It's like,
Yeah.
are we just all one experiencing life from many different perspectives?
I
But you
agree
have
with
the
that.
ability to
Yeah,
do
can I
that.
add something to
Yeah.
that? Can I add something to that? We're acting as transformers and up-leveling vibration.
Yes.
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 So we're raising vibration now in this conversation amongst us.
Yeah.
And the listeners, it's going to affect their vibration, their field.
Yes.
It will.
Obviously, when we're
Yes.
communicating
Yeah.
in life and what we're putting out there into the field, we're either adding to some frequency out in the field. So I have no choice but to walk in, and I have no choice but to forgive and let go. Because I know if I don't, I'm adding to the lower vibrational field.
And so the more that we're doing this work and finding greater levels of forgiveness and compassion and resolution in our life, the more that is encouraging other people or other beings to experience similar.
Yeah,
I can add to that one.
Sorry, Vin. We add to the field aggregates to a particular frequency within the field.
Yeah.
So it's what are we putting into the field? We are so responsible for what we're putting into the field and what we're creating as energy inside of ourselves in a moment by moment basis with the power of our attention and focus.
You're like a field manager. We were trying to work out your title, Vinnie.
True.
I was recently, well, I say recently, it was about 5 years ago. I was trying to work out what it was that I did. And I realized I felt quite uncomfortable saying I was an astrologer. And so I started to say I work in futures and, what was it? Futures and, I can't even remember now, but I said I worked in futures, which is interesting because it kind of gives it a everyday kind of, people just think, oh, yeah, she's working for a bank, or, you know, she's kind of important. But like, you know, if you were like, you could say you're a field manager and it's like a really formal title, and yet actually
brilliant.
Some master holding this collective field.
Because titles sometimes, you know, especially in our world, if you give yourself some title, you know, I mean, I've had this, God forgive me, but I've had this thing, and Ben and I often have a real giggle about this, about how some people give themselves fancy names in in all sorts of fields of life, you know, but the spiritual world in particular, we have this thing, you know, I think I coined the phrase Archangel Foo Fluff or something like that. It was probably much more disrespectful than that, but I was like, I like grounded people, but I like names as well that I can relate to. And I think sometimes if I say to people, I never know when people say to me, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, just a housewife. Happily so. But also, I'm so much more than that. And when people experience my process, it is quite phenomenal. And thank you for that, Vinnie, because I can now claim that. Or I wouldn't have said that before, but I do feel that I have got something special and it is worth giving out. And what we do for ourselves, we also do automatically. It reflects on the collective. Like Vinnie said, it goes into the field, everything we do. And it's the most important thing. And people argue about this and have wars about it, but if you don't pay attention to yourself and self-care and loving you, truly loving yourself, you've got nothing to give anybody else anyway. And when you don't love yourself, what you tend to do is focus on, oh, there's a war over there, oh, that person's hurting that child or that dog or that blah 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 blah, and it doesn't do any good. All you're doing is adding to whatever's going on over there, because you're adding your energy and power to it. Whereas when you take this inner journey with someone like Vinnie, you can then go to a place where you can be truly powerful and work with integrity, authenticity, and empowerment.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
That's
how it's...
And Sarah's adding in as well. Do you mind if I share Sarah's?
Yeah.
Sarah's saying, I just had a discussion this week about not being able to hear compliments. That's so funny that we were talking about not being able to hear and making ourselves thanking the person for the compliment, but literally forgetting it immediately after. This came up after my session with Vinnie and will be discussed next session. And Sarah's also saying, Louisa, yes, Vinnie is personified ayahuasca. Vinnie, you're about to say something.
Yeah, I think it's really important this for everybody that's listening. What Jay experienced is within them as an experience in their own unique way as well. And in terms of we are perfect and whole. And the further we go, the more we discover that. So Jay went on this incredible journey. And I think I can say this, that it's given Jay a greater connectedness with a higher aspect of who she is.
Yeah, definitely, without a
And
shadow of doubt.
So it's within everyone and goes on and on and on and on, and it never ever ends.
No, it's
So
ever expanding.
Yeah, it's where are we on that spectrum in terms of awareness?
Yes.
Where are we?
Yes.
Are we some people are in constant reaction to their programming.
Yes.
And then others can observe their programming operating and choose not to respond in the old way.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, I would normally react like this and I'm not going to do that. So there's a greater sense of awareness and therefore a greater connection with oneself, more consciousness.
Definitely.
And it goes on and on and on. And nobody's special. Well, everyone's special, but nobody's more special.
Yeah.
It's just where have they landed in their consciousness in this particular dimension. But in other dimensions, those aspects could be incredible. They could be absolutely enlightened beings.
Yeah.
In other dimensions. And here, lying on the street, having wet themselves as an alcoholic, for example, homeless here, but in another dimension, completely and utterly enlightened.
Do you know that's true? And since our sessions as well, what I have been experiencing, which has been quite, again, it's like I say, I'm still processing it all, but I'm having experiences where I think I'm actually living in several dimensions at the same time, and I'm aware of that. I'm aware of all of those aspects operating at the same time simultaneously. It's weird and it's wonderful because I'm aware of it. And I know what's going on, but sometimes occasionally there'll be a glitch and I'll go, oh my God, fall off the twig, and then I'll go, hang on a minute, no, that's what's happening, so I don't know if anybody else has had that, but that's definitely happening for me.
Something
my greatest lesson about kindness came from outside of this dimension.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've had a series of I didn't realize I was having them for quite a few years. They were just very normal. But every now and again, when I would be doing something like washing up or going for a walk, or I would be viewing a drama or remembering a conversation.
Yeah.
And it would occur to me that it was me. But actually, when I listened back to the conversation or replayed the video in my head, I realized that it was almost like I was flicking through a TV and seeing people that weren't me.
Yes.
Wasn't me having a conversation. And yet in that moment, I was one of these people. And so I would have this almost like the computer inside my brain was picking up signal of somebody else. And I would experience it for maybe a nanosecond that felt like 10 minutes of conversation. And because I experienced it or it was just taking place in a nanosecond, I would know all this information, but I never knew who that person was. But now I've come to observe them and go, oh, that's one of those moments. I think I'm seeing something going on in somebody else, somewhere else, in the world. Like these really little vignettes.
I get that. Yeah.
We're going
to also those aspects of ourselves that are not this bit here can also have those experiences and conversations with other aspects of others that are doing the same thing.
Yes,
it's amazing.
I mean,
it is infinite.
It is. And here's a possibility that just occurred to me is what happens a bit like, you were talking about you're in many lives all around the world or galaxy or universe. Simultaneously, you're aware that you are living out many lives. It occurs to me that a bit like Agent Smith in the Matrix. Like there's all these Agent Smiths, but that Agent Smith can be activated all of a sudden. We could, if we needed to, I think, be aware, have our, like, consciously be aware of what's going on in Australia, what's going on in Texas, in Iceland, in all these different places. We could probably tune in. I guess that is what people do when they're doing remote viewing. There are people who are trained to be able to, like, see through somebody else's eyes and experience things. Which is another reason why maybe consciousness or whatever's going on in the brain or whatever's going on in the big computer is hackable.
Because literally unlimited down to our imagination. So for example, somebody's deceased and the person has lots and lots of issues about that person. And it's possible to connect the person with the deceased person and to have a conversation, but also merge with them and to see through their eyes at the experiences they had in their lifetime.
That's absolutely true. I can vouch for that.
So it's literally unlimited. It's down to our imagination and what we are prepared to allow ourselves to receive and to connect with.
You're right.
So a lot of people hearing this would freak them out completely. What we're talking about now. But we've reached the level where we can be open to this and to receive.
And we are going to have to wrap this up in a sec, because we've both got meetings and stuff that we've got to attend. But one of my final thoughts for this is, in light of the fact that we're already whole and complete, is that we are able to access something that we need. Like through this process that you've put me through, Vinnie, all the questions or considerations or things I was pondering about have all got answered, because you put me into, or you helped me put myself into a resourceful state where I could find exactly what I needed in just the right way for me to be able to listen and tune in. And it's created a massive ripple effect. Like within like a week of us working together, I had about 3 or 4 people who I'd known for years like stop me and say, "You're really beautiful, I was like,
"Oh, well, yeah, you are."
Well, thank you, but but like it was like almost unexpected. They were like looking at me as if they were seeing a new version of me. And of course, I'm just sat here being my normal version, but something had changed behind the scenes, and other people were having a different experience of me. And
I had that too.
I must be going the right way.
Yeah, definitely. I had that experience, Louisa, as well.
What's your final thought then for today, Jay? And then we'll finish on you, Vinnie.
Well, just to go back to what you were saying earlier about your kids loving gaming, I've always been a little bit, gaming, and I went round to babysit last week for my 2 after one of my sessions, I think it was, and I just sat quietly and I sat sewing in the corner and let them get on with it. And what I noticed from that is that they are so engaged in that world, that virtual world, it's actually enhancing their lives. And Evie, the older one, came home from school with 2 reports that were absolutely top notch. And people, including myself, are thinking, oh God, sit there on games, it's not going to do them any good. But because they're problem solving, because they're out of their heads and into this virtual reality, which then translates into their world every day, they're actually way ahead of where I was at their age. So, again, this world that we can go into on the inner, which is just a game at the end of the day, once we are aware of it and know about it, we can reprogram everything about our lives. That's where Vinnie comes in, because he can help you do that.
That's really fascinating that you said that, because that's my experience as well. I was always panicking, thinking, oh my God, my kids like gaming. But actually, they've got the confidence to recreate their world every time they realize it's not what they want. They're just like, oh, let's just take it out. Let's just do that.
Erase.
And they understand that as a system or a way of being. And I think they are already applying that in their lives. Thank you. Vinnie, then, what's your final thought for today? And I think this is an ongoing conversation anyway, but what's your final thought to leave us on today?
Well, I think that's a great metaphor for life, gaming, that life is a game. And we take it very seriously, but it is a game. It passes very quickly. And we can achieve anything our hearts desire. I don't believe we can
Yes.
achieve anything. If my ego wanted me to be a world champion boxer and to beat Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, it's very unlikely that's going to happen. But from my core, that's not what I choose to do.
Mm.
So that calling inside, I believe we can achieve whatever that is.
Yeah.
Because that calling inside is the truth
Yeah.
of who we are. And I believe that's what we're here to express into the world, to express that. And that life is a game. And we shouldn't take it as seriously as we do. That's including me. And we should play it.
Yeah, have
Play
fun.
it.
Yeah, find your inner dolphin and just fly.
Yeah. Well, that's brilliant. And by the way, just I actually do think of you as a heavyweight in the field of transformation. You're a knockout. But anyway, thank you so much for joining us today, wherever you've been in the world, wherever you are right now, if you've listened in live or later. Thanks for joining us. This was a co-creation, as it always is. And I really do think that the people that are listening to us and the people that listen to us later, like, you know, all of our energies come into this, and like it's a bit like going to a spiritualist session. Even if you don't get a message directly for you, there's always some relevance somewhere. So yeah, thanks for being part of our existence right here, right now, and hopefully we'll all connect again real soon. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Vinnie.
You're
Have
welcome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
a day, everyone.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye.